Now, I'm sure it's been a long day. You'll be very relieved to hear my speech is extremely short. So I was asked to talk about the state of the nation in a business sense. And my perception is broadly that this is as good as it gets. We have growth at, I think, this year of at least 3%. Unemployment is falling steadily, now below 7%. Employment is actually at an all-time high. Interest rates, meantime, remain low. Sterling is strong, which I think is always an interesting indicator of the world's confidence in your nation. FDI remains pretty resilient, and indeed, the stock market is a 14-year high. Meantime, banks are lending again, I believe. Capital investment by industry is picking up. Exports are improving. Government finances are improving. The housing market is strong, perhaps even too strong. And from sectors as varied as the motor trade to construction to tourism, we're seeing the best growth for at least 5 to 10 years. And consumer confidence is roaring. So I think on virtually every measure you can think of, these are good times. Many reasons, I believe, for the business community, entrepreneurs and so forth, to be cheerful and optimistic. And I think, actually, that is the natural frame of mind for those who make things happen. Because, and I think it was my father, perhaps, who first taught me this. He's an historian in his 80s, and he's always believed that actually, in the long run, the optimists triumph. History basically forgets the pessimists. Those who say it won't work are lost in the midst of time, whereas those who, take risks, undertake bold, ambitious things, and from time to time succeed, are the ones who matter. As someone once said, failure is but a passing weariness. There is no final answer but success. Now, I think there are other longer run, interesting structural reasons to be positive. A very important one, I think, and symbolic too, was actually first pointed out, well, certainly to me, by an organisation I used to chair, the RSA, which is that within the next 2 or 3 years, the number of self-employed people in this country will exceed 5 million, and very importantly, will be greater than the public sector workforce. And I think this is a very important structural change within the makeup of our nation. We have already, and we will continue to have, I think in the coming years, a record number of entrepreneurs. And that in itself, I believe, will lead to more jobs and more innovation. I'm sure you all know that the facts reveal that jobs are created not by big business, a la Barclays sacking thousands of people this week, or announcing the sacking of thousands of people, and not by government anymore, because governments can't afford to employ more people. Entrepreneurs everywhere punch way above their weight in both innovation and job creation. Now, it's not all perfect. It never is. There remain challenges. London versus the rest of the country. We must boost growth and confidence outside the super prosperous southeast. A rebalancing of the economy, that's already happening, but we need more diversity and somewhat less dependence. I'm not anti-financial services, but just less dependence on it would be a nice thing. More high quality manufacturing, high skilled jobs and so forth. And the way to do that, and indeed the way to long-term growth of any kind, is education, a better trained workforce, if we want to remain truly competitive in the global economy. And in addition to which, I think there is another vital trend discussed in detail by a new book called The Fourth Revolution, which is that we and the rest of particularly Europe must relentlessly reform our public sectors so they are more efficient, more productive, and offer better value to their underwriters, the taxpayer. the reasons why are obvious, that we are spending too much on the low growth parts of our economies and not enough in the higher growth, productive parts of our economies. And I think the fact that this is perhaps the greatest time ever to be an entrepreneur, because never before have the tools to own and build a business been so democratized. These trends should and must continue. And speaking personally, I believe that the future lies in markets, in competition, in incentives, in free enterprise, in limited government, the rule of law and property rights, which is a great unsung positive of this nation. And with that relatively simple formula, I think for this nation, the sky's the limit. And the most important thing to remember, and there's this French intellectual called, I think he's called Piketty, who's forgotten it. Entrepreneurship is not a zero-sum game. Entrepreneurs add value and are essential. Thank you very much and good luck.